Well, the Electoral College vote has come and gone. Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States, but that has not stopped the debate over whether the electoral system itself is a good idea and fair. Kenneth Jost just wrote a recent LA Times op-ed entitled "The Electoral College has always been the wrong way to choose a president," and he joins us now with his plans to fix it. Ken, thanks a lot for coming on.
Glad to be with you.
So you start the piece by saying Trump's election is another piece of evidence that it's a bad system, and thank you for being straightforward about how you feel politically, and that's fine. But you basically make the case, if I'm understanding it, that the Electoral College is bad because it's not democratic enough. It doesn't respect the idea of one man, one vote enough, which I think is a real argument. But your solution is, did I get that right?
Absolutely. Okay. So one man, one vote is what the Supreme Court said in the 1960s is the sum and substance of the 14th Amendment. Due process, equal protection of laws means one person, one vote, same weight. The Electoral College, it contradicts that. Yeah. And later amendments can change the meaning of the original Constitution.
That's right. So everything you said is right, and the Electoral College is less democratic than a one-man, one-vote system, for sure. It's your solution that gives me pause, which is, rather than have the states vote on it, which would be the most democratic way to do it, you're choosing the least democratic way to do it, which is to have 5 unelected justices make the decision to change it. That seems like more of the problem you're decrying.
I understand it's an audacious argument to say that the Supreme Court can strike something out of the Constitution. Absolutely. But the Supreme Court has done some audacious things, after all, abolishing racial segregation in public schools, establishing constitutional right for same-sex couples to marriage, etc. And striking down part of the campaign finance law in the Citizens United case. Okay, so the Supreme Court, way back when John Marshall was Chief Justice, said it is fundamentally the province of the judicial department to say what the law is. And if the Electoral College violates provisions of the Constitution that were added afterwards, it's the court's job to do it.
But wait, I mean, leaving aside, you answered a separate question. You're basically saying the Supreme Court can find the Constitution itself unconstitutional, which seems insane, but I'm not a lawyer. I'm asking you a deeper question, though, which is, if your objection to the Electoral College is that it's not democratic enough, you want 5 people who've not been elected by anybody, who have lifetime appointments, to, by fiat, get rid of it. You want the king to come in and make everything better. That's the opposite of democracy. So why wouldn't you want to vote on this? Why shouldn't the people decide to empower themselves? Why rely on judges?
Because it is the province of the judicial department to decide what the law is. And
no.
Sure, a constitutional amendment would be a neater, a more convincing way to do it. And let's remember, the part of Article 2 about how to elect the president was not the best work that the framers came up with.
Okay,
give me a second. It was amended 10 years later, right? Because their first idea was the runner-up would be vice president. What a stupid idea, right? And 150 years later, in 1933, the United States, the Constitution was amended so that the 4.5-month transition period, which was way too long even back then, was cut down to 2.5 months. So we now inaugurate the president in January, not in March.
Right. No, I know all that, and there was messiness around that, and their original idea didn't work very well, and so they amended it, as you just noted. But I want to get to something that I see, not just in your writing, but all over the left, which is a lack of faith in democratic institutions. You're basically saying change comes from lawsuits. You recommend someone file a lawsuit, and then judges decide, and then the rest of us abide by it. What happened to the bedrock American faith in self-government? You seem to have given up on that completely. You said, well, this is a less elegant way. No, it's not less elegant. It's less democratic. And is that not a problem for you?
Well, you should ask legal conservatives that same question. You know, what about, okay, good if you have. Citizens United was the result of a request from the right for judicial activism. And you hear that on the legal right.
But you're still not answering the question. I mean, look, you have a case to make. I don't think your case is crazy. I think most people think, yeah, that makes sense. We want more democracy rather than less. But why not convince people like ordinary people to push their lawmakers to do this instead of just asking one guy to sue and some star chamber of judges nobody even knows to make the decision that the rest of us live under. Is that really the direction you want to take the country?
Well, first, let me say I appreciate your comment, because one of the kinder things on Twitter was somebody who called me unhinged. But in any event,
I think it's unhealthy. I guess that's the point I think.
The Supreme Court has, in some sense, the final authority on what is constitutional. It's not really the final authority, because once the Supreme Court rules something, there can still be,
Right.
subsequent, backlash and et cetera, et cetera. But the Supreme Court is the institution that can say in a definitive way, this comports with the Constitution or does not.
But in the end, the people rule, and I think we should all remember that. Anyway, Ken, thanks a lot for that.